You ever have one of those moments where something just feels wrong? Not just a bad vibe, but a deep, primal wrongness that settles in your bones and tells you, clear as day, that you've stumbled into a place where you absolutely do not belong. Like peeling back a layer of reality and finding something ancient and hungry staring back. I felt that. Every single nerve ending screaming the night I found Silas's journal. And believe me, it's a feeling I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. It all started innocently enough, as these things always do. My great-aunt Eleanor passed away last winter, leaving behind a house that was less a home and more a museum of forgotten lives. Dust motes danced in sunbeams through grimy windows, illuminating stacks of yellowed newspapers, towering piles of books, and furniture draped in white sheets like slumbering giants. Eleanor had been a recluse, a woman of quiet habits and even quieter secrets, and going through her possessions felt less like an inheritance and more like an archaeological dig. My cousin Clara and I were tasked with the unenviable job of clearing the place out. Clara, ever the pragmatist, saw only resale value in junk. I, on the other hand, found myself drawn to the stories hinted at by every object. The faded tintypes of stern-faced ancestors, the intricate lace doilies, the scent of lavender and aged paper that permeated every room. It was in the study, a room so crammed with books it felt like the walls were breathing, that I found it. Tucked away in a false bottom of an old cedar chest, beneath a pile of meticulously folded linens, lay a small leather-bound journal. It wasn't much to look at. Plain dark leather, worn smooth with age, with no title or inscription. But as soon as my fingers brushed against it, a shiver, cold and sharp, traced its way down my spine. It felt heavy, not just in weight, but with an almost palpable sense of history, of secrets. My name, Eliza, was scrawled on the inside cover alongside a date from over a century ago. My great-great-grandmother Eliza had owned this. I sat down in the dusty armchair, the only sound the distant hum of Clara's vacuum cleaner in the hallway. The journal fell open to the first page, the ink faded but still legible, written in a delicate looping script. It began, October 17th, 1892. The silence in this house grows heavier with each passing day. Silas paces. He talks to shadows. I fear for his mind. I fear for my own. Silas. I remembered him from scattered family lore, Eliza's husband. A man rumored to have been brilliant, but troubled, who disappeared without a trace in the late 1800s. The family always whispered of a melancholy that consumed him, a euphemism for something darker, I always suspected. I devoured the pages, the entries becoming more frantic, the handwriting more agitated as I went. Eliza wrote of Silas's increasing obsession with the woods bordering their property, an ancient sprawling forest known locally as Blackwood. He'd spend days out there, returning with mud on his boots and an unsettling light in his eyes, refusing to speak of what he'd seen or done. He started claiming the trees were listening, that the very air in the house was thin. November 3rd, 1892. He brings things back now, not treasures, but fragments. A patch of dried moss, strangely patterned. A smooth, dark stone that feels unnaturally cold to the touch. He places them around the house, saying they are markers. Markers for what? He won't say, only mutters of the thinning veil. The sense of wrongness I'd felt earlier intensified. I looked around Eleanor's study, at the towering bookcases, the heavy velvet curtains. Had Eliza felt the same unsettling dread within these very walls? The journal described how Silas would sit by the window for hours, staring out into Blackwood, his gaze fixed on nothing visible. Eliza wrote of his nightmares, vivid and terrifying, where he would wake screaming, claiming they were calling to him, a chorus of whispers weaving through the forest. December 1st, 1892. The whispers have come into the house. I hear them when I'm alone, faint at first, like wind chimes far away, but growing louder. They speak a language I do not understand, yet my heart clenches with a terrible recognition. Silas smiles when he hears them, a vacant, chilling smile that makes my blood run cold. I remembered Clara's cheerful voice calling out earlier, asking if I wanted lunch. I hadn't heard it, absorbed as I was. Now, the silence in the old house felt oppressive, thick, and heavy. The sun had begun to dip below the horizon, painting the room in long, eerie shadows. Eliza's entries grew shorter, more desperate. She began to question her own sanity, describing how the whispers would sometimes form words, though always just out of earshot, like a forgotten song humming at the edge of perception. She'd wake to find strange symbols drawn in dust on the floorboards, or small piles of pebbles arranged on her bedside table. The same smooth, dark stones Silas had brought in, January 10th, 1893. He is changing. His eyes? They are not his own. There is a depth to them, a profound emptiness that stares through me, not at me. He moves with a quiet grace, his footsteps barely audible. He spends less time in the house, more in the woods, and he always returns just before dawn, smelling of damp earth and something else, something cold and ancient. My breath hitched. I could almost picture him, Silas, a ghost in his own home, slipping through the shadows, drawn by an unseen force. What was in Blackwood? What had he found? The next entry was almost illegible, scrawled furiously across 2 pages. January 25th, 1893. They are waiting. I saw them. Not clearly, not with my eyes, but in the spaces between the trees, in the shifting shadows at the edge of perception. Tall, silent. They move without touching the ground. And they follow Silas. They follow him home. A cold dread seeped into my veins. This wasn't just a troubled man's descent into madness. This was something far more sinister. Eliza was seeing them too. What they were, she didn't say, couldn't say. The journal's final entry was sparse, written in a hand that trembled so violently it was barely decipherable. January 27th, 1893. He is gone. Not vanished, not disappeared. He simply walked into the woods this morning and did not return. But I saw him look back. His eyes were theirs now, empty, waiting. And they were with him, shimmering at the edge of sight, drawing him deeper. The house is silent now, except for the whispers. They are clearer now. They call his name and mine. That was it. The final page was blank. Silas had vanished. And Eliza was left alone, haunted by whispers and the memory of eyes that weren't his own. I sat there, the journal heavy in my lap, the last rays of sunlight fading completely, plunging the study into near darkness. Clara's vacuum had gone silent. The entire house was still, utterly, terrifyingly still. Then I heard it, a faint rustle, not outside, not the wind. It came from deeper within the house, from the long, dark hallway outside the study door. A soft, almost imperceptible sound, like dry leaves skittering across wood. I froze, straining to listen. It came again, closer this time, accompanied by a subtle shift in the air, a drop in temperature that pricked at my skin. It wasn't my imagination. Something was moving. And then, just at the edge of hearing, so soft I almost convinced myself it was the wind, came the whisper. A low, drawn-out sound, like dry breath escaping ancient lips. It wasn't a word, not really. More like a resonant hum, a presence. It wasn't calling Silas's name. It was calling mine. My heart hammered against my ribs. I clutched the journal, its old leather feeling strangely warm now, almost alive. I wanted to scream, to run, but my feet felt rooted to the floor. The whisper came again, a little clearer this time, a cold tendril of sound curling around my ears, brushing against my mind. Eliza. No, not Eliza. Me. It was calling me. A sudden sharp realization hit me cold as ice. My great-great-grandmother, Eliza, had found this journal. She had written in it. But the name scrawled on the inside cover, the name I had seen, was Eliza. My name. I flipped back to the first page, my fingers fumbling. And there it was, in the same delicate script above the date. Eliza. Not my Eliza. Her Eliza. The sound in the hallway grew louder. A soft, dragging scrape, and the whispers, now a chorus, a multitude of faint, dry voices swirling just outside the study door, repeating my name. Eliza. Eliza. I squeezed my eyes shut, pressing my hands over my ears, desperate to block out the sound, to deny what I was hearing, what I was feeling. But it was no use. The whispers were inside my head now, a symphony of ancient dread, beckoning me, calling me. When I opened my eyes, the hallway was still dark, but I could just make out a deeper shadow within the gloom, a stillness that was more than just an absence of light, a profound emptiness that stared back, waiting. I ran. I didn't grab the journal, didn't think about anything but getting out. I burst out of the study, nearly colliding with Clara, who was standing at the bottom of the stairs, a puzzled expression on her face. What's wrong? I thought I heard something, she began, but she trailed off, her gaze fixed on something behind me. I didn't look back. I just grabbed her arm and pulled her towards the front door, half dragging her out into the cold January air, not caring about the dust, the unfinished work, the house full of forgotten lives and hungry whispers. We never went back. The house stands empty now, a silent sentinel at the edge of Blackwood. Sometimes, when the wind blows just right, I swear I can still hear them, faint and distant, a chorus of whispers weaving through the night, calling my name, beckoning me home. And I know, deep in my soul, that some veils are thinner than others, and some things, once seen, can never truly be unseen.